Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for attending our webinar today, which is hopefully going to help you turbocharge your business with Microsoft 365 Copilot. So that's Microsoft's AI assistant in Microsoft 365 apps. Just introducing myself to those of you who don't know me, my name is Bruce Penson. I'm Managing Director of ProDrive. We're an IT business and we provide IT strategy support, cloud services and cybersecurity, and that's mainly to law firms, accountants and financial services businesses. So today we're very much focused on Copilot. We have done a number of other webinars on AI and various other Microsoft 365 components. But what I wanted to just explain first is what Copilot for Microsoft 365 is. There is potentially some confusion with Microsoft's naming strategy here. So there's actually two forms of Copilot that you may use within Microsoft 365. There's something called Copilot with commercial data protection. It just rolls off the tongue, that. And then you have Copilot for Microsoft 365 itself, which is what today's webinar is focused on. Copilot for commercial data protection is something that you get within all Microsoft 365 licenses. So if you don't have a Copilot for Microsoft 365 license for today's features, you will have the commercial data protection already. It's essentially like a version of ChatGPT, if you're familiar with that. So it's a AI chat engine that's based on public available data. The key difference is that the Copilot available as part of your current Microsoft 365 license does not use your data to train the language model or train the AI, and it protects your data within your Microsoft 365 environment. So if you are using AI within your business already, I definitely recommend using that rather than free chat engines that are on the internet. Copilot from Microsoft 365 does require an additional license. It's about £300 a year per person, but that allows you to use Copilot within the Microsoft 365 apps and based on your internal business data. So just very quickly, Copilot with commercial data protection. So this is what you should have included with Microsoft 365 already. You can get this three ways. Either by clicking on your the Copilot symbol, which is in your your taskbar at the bottom of the screen if you've got Windows 11. If you're using Microsoft Edge, you'll see it in the top right-hand side of the web browser screen, or you can go to copilot.microsoft.com from any web browser. Make sure you sign in with your Microsoft 365 account. So today, as I said, it's all about Copilot for Microsoft 365, and we're now going to switch to doing some live demos to show you some of its capability. What I'd say is if you do have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A. I'll get round to those at the end of the webinar. So I'm just going to share my screen now. Hopefully everyone can see that okay. The screen you're seeing now is Copilot's business chat, and this is fairly familiar, I guess, if you've used something like ChatGPT before or the Copilot with commercial data protection. You can basically ask Copilot for Microsoft 365 questions and it will do its best to answer. And this will be based on your business data. There's a few kind of examples to get you started, but actually what I'm going to do is ask the most important question of the day and ask Copilot what team I've got in our sweepstake for the Euros. So let's see what it can come up with. So I've got Netherlands and Romania, which is pretty good for me because, as you can see, also it's identified that there's prizes in our sweepstake to the winner, second place, top scorer, and the worst team. So whatever happens tonight, I'm going to get something out of it. Either England get to the final, or I'm going to get a minimum of second prize from my sweepstake team. So I'm pretty happy with that. Let's ask it a more business-orientated question. So I'm going to ask, put myself in the position of a new employee at ProDrive. We've got a service called DMARC management, which is around email security, but it's a acronym. We have lots of them in IT, don't really know what it is. So let's ask Copilot and see what it can turn up with. When Copilot looks for information in the business, it will look on all areas where you store information. So this could be documents. In our case, that would be on SharePoint. It could look on emails that you've sent and received, or it could also go out to the web as well. So what you're seeing here is that Copilot's got information from all those sources. So it's taken information from some data sheets, and you can see it references the sources of its information. It's found some information on email, and it's also gone and got some information from the web as well. So it's given me a nice sort of overview of what this service is. So you can also ask, use Copilot as a kind of personal assistant. So imagine I've been out of the office for a long period of time. So I've had a week's holiday. I've got 200 or 300 unread emails. I'm sure it's not an unfamiliar scenario for a lot of you. And what I want is to just find out what I actually need to do from those emails. I don't want to read all 200 or 300 of them. I just need to know what I need to do straight away. So I'm going to ask Copilot what I need to do from my unread emails. Hopefully nothing's on there that's too private. It's always a risk of live demos. So here we go. So I've got to reschedule a meeting with someone, review some social media posts, and there we go, do my tax return. So it's given me, I've probably got a bunch more unread emails than that, but it's just telling me the stuff that I need to do now. So that's a really good way of using this. And one final demo I'm going to do with the chat is just about scheduling meetings. So I could go into calendars to do this and look for slots that's available. But if I want to book a Teams meeting with my colleague Chris, I can tell Copilot what I want to do, and hopefully it will be able to find a slot in our diaries that's suitable. Okay, so here's an example of when Copilot doesn't always do what it's supposed to do. I've done this demo many times before and it has worked. So this is one of the disadvantages of AI. It can obviously, as you can see, go wrong at times. I'll give it one last chance, and if it doesn't work, I'll move on. There we go. So it's given me a slot where I can schedule a meeting, which is great. So I'm not quite sure why it's referenced a sales meeting there, but anyway, it's told me a slot when we both have availability. Now, I'm just going to go into a bit more detail on meetings. So if we wanted to, for instance, create a new meeting, so let's go into Teams and do that. Copilot can be quite useful here as well. So if I was to create that meeting that I just asked about, so candidates review meeting, and I don't know if any of you've used this feature in when creating meetings now, but if you create them from within Teams rather than Outlook, you get more in the way of options these days. You can add an agenda to it. So I can actually use Copilot here as well to create this agenda. So if I go in, I can use Copilot, draft with Copilot, and I can say create an agenda for a follow-up meeting for exhibiting accountants. That's what I wanted to do. So it can give me a draft agenda that I can get going with, and then I can modify that if I need to. So hopefully we'll start seeing Copilot filling this in. Whilst I'm on this screen, now when you start the Teams meeting, this will appear on the right-hand panel for all participants, and you can actually do things like create tasks, follow-up tasks, which will go into people's Outlook calendars as well from the meeting. So there you go, it's given me an agenda. and I've got the opportunity then to rewrite it. So I could say, can you make that agenda briefer? Could you make it more focused on the exhibition outcomes, for instance, or whatever I might need to do? But I won't go through that now, but I'm sure you get the idea. So if you've run a meeting, you also get some options during the meeting with Copilot as well. So the important part of this is when you're running the meeting, before you start the meeting, you want to make sure that you transcribe the meeting. So that's really important. Once you transcribe a meeting, then you get the Copilot options. So I'm just going to go in and look at a previous meeting that we've run here. And we're going to go into this sales update meeting here. And after the meeting, I've got a transcript of it, and I've got the agenda and notes that I created before. But I can click on here, view recap, and it's generated these notes automatically based on the transcript of the meeting. So it's created some notes from the meeting, what's happened during the meeting, and it's created a list of follow-up tasks as well. So that's really handy, but I can actually go further than that, and I can start asking Copilot some questions. And let's just say that I want to know, so there was actually a need to write a report. So I can find out who's actually going to write the report from this meeting. Just ask Copilot. You can actually see I've already done this, but anyway, there we go. So Matt's going to write a report. He'll update the audit and fairly quickly and send it to Bruce in the afternoon. So I've now asked a specific bit of information about it, and actually what it's done is it's put a reference to what Matt said about writing the report. So hopefully that that will happen. You also get a recording of the meeting. So we're just going to go back to one we did earlier. So we've got a recording of a meeting here. This is our support team, and we can do a recap of the meeting. So this is basically just doing the same thing that I showed you, but we're doing that live. So this is actually a video recording of the whole meeting here. So I don't need to play it, but you can see there's lots of stuff going on. So they're talking about ARC and DMARC again. So that's being transcribed slightly wrong. Again, this is technical stuff. I'm not really too sure what it is. So if I miss this meeting, I might want to know what this ARC thing's all about. So let's just ask Copilot what ARC stands for. Hopefully it'll be able to tell me. There we go. So I've got a bit of information about what that is. So you can ask all sorts of questions about the meeting without having to go in there. It's actually tells me the point in the meeting where that was discussed as well. So that's really useful. And again, I can list action items if I want to. Okay, so there's some action items on the meeting. So that's all great. So I'm going to leave Teams now, but hopefully you can see, obviously everyone uses Teams. It's one of the most used apps in Microsoft 365. There's some really good ways of saving time here and enhancing the quality of your meetings and making following up from them much, much easier. So hopefully that's been useful for you. What we're going to go on to next is Excel. And I think for Copilot in general, for Copilot for Microsoft 365 in general, sorry, the two most powerful areas I believe are in the assistance it provides in Teams and with Excel. So I've got some demo data here, which I'm going to go through and show you how Copilot can help. So just to start with, I think it's just probably worth mentioning that Copilot as things stand at the moment in Excel, will only work on data in tables. So I'm going to open the Copilot window. You can see it's actually still a preview in Excel, but there is some quite decent functionality. But you have to have data in a table in order to do anything with it. So first thing you can do is you can ask Copilot information about your data. So let's just say if I want to ask it whether we sell more whole wheat or pretzels. So fairly simple question. I could probably answer that by going through and doing some sums and things on the table, but in this case, I'm being lazy. I don't want to do that, and I just want to get some information relatively quickly. So let's see what Copilot comes back with. And there you go. So we can see clearly from that we sell more whole wheat. Now we can actually be more general and just ask Copilot to summarize any key trends that it sees in the data. So this is really good when you've got a massive table of data. You've got for example, you might want to analyze it before a meeting. Could take a lot of time. You spend an hour or so going through, sorting, producing graphs, or you could just ask Copilot to look for some key trends in it. So let's see what it comes back with. There you go. So it's not identified some outliers in the cookies category. It's even providing a nice little graph to show it. So we can keep sort of delving in for further insights if we wanted to, but hopefully that gives you the idea. So moving on, so one area that I find a real struggle in Excel was remembering formulas for everything. Generally speaking, if I need to do something a bit more complex that needs a formula, I have to start searching for it on Google, and it takes me ages, often doesn't work. Then you have to type it in and adjust it for your table, and I'm sure anyone who's done that is quite familiar with that. However, with Copilot, we can actually avoid writing those formulas, and if we can tell it what we want to do, then hopefully Copilot will be able to suggest a formula. So what I want to do is basically segment the data in column G, the quantity data, so that I've got some categories based on how much of these items that I've sold. So I've asked Copilot to return a value of A if it's greater than 200, B if it's greater than 100. I think you get the idea. And what I really want, this is a new column called segment, so I can segment these into ABC data. So let's ask Copilot to do that and see what happens. Okay, so we've got a response. So Copilot has said what it's looking to do. It's suggested a formula. And here's the beauty of it. It's actually given me the option to insert the column. As you can see, the data is categorized there. Hopefully it's categorized as I've asked it to do it. It looks like it has. And if I click insert column, there you go, the column's in there. So that certainly saved me a lot of time. Yes, Copilot takes a little while to process it. That's probably going to get quicker over time, but it's put that information in there and it saved me a lot of hassle in trying to do that. Now, just I'll try another formula here, just something a little more complex. So what I'm asking Copilot to do, so I've got another table here of categories, so high performer, medium performer, that kind of thing, based on the segment. So what I want it to do is create a new column based on a lookup in this table here. So if anyone who does kind of VLOOKUP commands, that kind of thing, they know it can be quite complicated to do. And often it's difficult to get them to work correctly. So let's see if Copilot's able to do that. So it's got a command called XLOOKUP, which I would never have known. I've not been doing this. And again, I've got the option to insert the column, and we'll just double check that it's got it right. Yes, there you go. So it's got that in there correctly. So something else that can be quite time consuming in Excel is doing conditional formatting. Anyone who's done things with multiple rules will know that. Copilot's very good at doing that as well. I'm going to give it a fairly simple one in this case. So I just want to do a formatting on the total price just to show the increased increments of 100. So let's see if it's going to do that. So it's given the option to apply that. So let's put that in. There we go. So we've got some conditional formatting on there as well. So one final thing I want to do in Excel is just something a little bit more advanced. Hopefully you've seen all the value of those bits I've done there. Now, one thing that is quite useful sometimes in complex Excel sheets, but people rarely do it because they don't have the skills, is creating macros and putting some code behind the macros. So Excel uses something called Visual Basic or VBA, and that determines what the macro does. So what I want is to write some Visual Basic to create a button to go straight to the food category tab. So let's see what happens when we do that. Now this, of course, doesn't relate to the data in the table. I'm just asking for some basic instructions on how to do something. So what it's done is it's given me some instructions. First, I need to insert a button from the developer tab, then assign this macro. And it's given me step-by-step instructions on how to do it. So hopefully this will work, but we'll give it a go. So developer, we do this, insert a button, and we need to do well, I've done this earlier, but this, you'll see that this is the information that it's given us. In fact, I'll just paste over the new macro that I've just copied just to show you. Go, so we save that. Close it. We've got our button. So I haven't done it properly, so let's just do that again. This is end user incompetence here and not an issue with Copilot, I could assure you. Just trying to remember how to do it. Okay, there we go. It's because I've named this incorrectly. So let's try that. Okay, it's not working, but I think that's probably the way I've done it rather than an issue with the macro. So slight live demo failure there, but I think you get the idea. You can obviously ask it more complicated things than this, and it will give you the code that you need. So one final thing I'm going to show you is some uses of Copilot within Word. So this has come on some way since Copilot's been launched. You now get, if you have a Copilot license, you get this option to draft with Copilot when you open Word. If you click on it, it'll give you the draft with Copilot box. Now, Copilot in Word, traditionally I've thought that it's probably easier to use something like ChatGPT. It's more powerful when you're just generating content. However, if you want to generate content based on your existing data, this is where Copilot in Word becomes really powerful, because you can reference files. You can actually reference up to 3 files, I believe, at the moment in your organization. So imagine that I want to create a new AI usage policy. I've already got an existing policy on just general fair usage of IT systems, but I want to create an AI specific one. So what I'm going to do is just put in a prompt here. Oops, sorry, do that again. So it's something I've pre-created. So bear with me a second whilst I just adjust this. So what I want to do is I've told Copilot it needs to assume the position of an HR and HR compliance operations person in an IT business. I want to create this policy on safe usage of AI, type of business that I am and the size. And I want to follow a format of an existing document. So if I paste that in, so I want it to follow the format of our IT usage policy. And I've actually got another document here that I want it to refer to. So let's just see if I can actually get it to refer specific to that one. Sample AI policy, there we go. So what I've done here is I said I wanted to refer to that. This is a sample AI policy, like a templated one that I just downloaded off the internet. It's not in the style of our policies. So I want Copilot to basically take that information and put it into our normal format. Let's click generate. Now, Copilot isn't quite up to standard yet where it can pull through templated stuff, so it won't pull through all the logos and the exact formatting of the documents that we have, but it will pull through equivalent layout. And as you can see here, we can already see that it's got the same format of the policy title. It's got about the review frequency, which we have in all our policies, the document control. It's even knows that the document control for this document is, the first revision is today, and it's me that's doing it. So that's great. We'll just give it a minute to finish working on this. One thing it's worth noting here is that we've got labels applied to documents that we store in SharePoint. And if you're pulling through information from an existing document, it'll pull through that label as well. So here we go. We've got our draft AI policy. That's really good. Again, we've got some options here now. We can keep it. We can do other things such as and they please make this policy shorter. And if we ask Copilot to do that, it will rewrite it. So that's going to be the final demo I'll do today, because we're at our half an hour now. I'll just let Copilot finish rewriting this first so you can see it, and then we'll go to questions. In actual fact, this is taking a while, so I'm going to stop the demo now, but I'm sure you get the idea here. So just before we finish, I'm just going to go back to my slides, and all I want to just explain really is just a few considerations that you should have if you're intending to introduce Copilot into your business. So the most important thing really is that you get engagement from your team. Unless people are engaged, they understand what it can do for them, how it works, and how it's going to make their daily life at work better, then you're probably not going to get the thing off the ground in the first place. Security is really important. You probably saw earlier about how powerful the search tools are in Copilot. If you've got stuff that people shouldn't see, but they've got access to it, the likelihood is they're probably going to find it at some point using Copilot, whether it's intentional or not. And training clearly is important, but also having ways that people can share successful uses of Copilot is the most powerful way of doing this. You've obviously seen some demos today, but you might have people who discover some things very specific to your organization that Copilot can save lots of time with. That's people sharing it with their colleagues is the way that you really get engagement on this stuff. If you want to go ahead and deploy Copilot, the usual kind of roadmap is to start with a discovery workshop. That's a way to sort of help people identify where there's potential return on investment, help them understand a bit of training on how this stuff works, what the background is, what you need to do to have safe usage, that kind of thing. And if out of that you can identify some areas where you think Copilot can have an immediate impact, the next step would be a pilot program. So that's launching Copilot, making sure people can use it for those use cases, giving them a way to share success with colleagues, deploying some licenses, obviously. And if that's successful, then the go live part of it is making sure that you properly lock down your data. You're putting in some reporting so you can see how Copilot's being used. You have people who are looking at that kind of reporting and making sure that it's being used correctly in the business. So they're the three typical stages, and they're areas obviously that ProDrive can help with if that's something that you want to do. So I'm just going to go over to questions now. Just seeing if we've got anything in the chat. So we've got a question here. Are there everyday tasks that Copilot can be utilized for to begin to understand its potential, or are there everyday tasks that you use Copilot for? So for me, I guess I mentioned earlier that it's £300 a year for a Copilot license. That sounds quite a lot when you put it in the context that that's actually more expensive than a Microsoft 365 license for most businesses. However, I think one of the biggest time savers that I found initially was when I went to holiday recently, came back and I used the question earlier that I showed you on the screen about actions from unread emails. That probably saved me about half a day of going through emails before getting started on my work. So that's a common one. Excel formulas, as I mentioned earlier, that this is a real time saver for me as well. So I think they're probably the two tasks that I've got the most value from. But there'll also be different things, I guess, for different organizations. What I would say is that people who are quite time poor are probably the ones who will sort of benefit most from Copilot, particularly people who do spend a lot of time on Teams emails and they don't have the chance to go through and review everything. They get lots of messages. So they're probably people who've got the easiest sort of initial benefits, I guess, if like the lowest hanging fruit in your organization. So I hope that answers that question. If we've got any more, let's just have a look. No more questions. So, okay, let's wrap things up there then. As with all our webinars, we do record them and the recordings will go on our YouTube channel. So if you check out the ProDrive YouTube channel, there's other webinars that we've done on there as well on AI and Copilot, which might be useful. We also have a how-to guide that we're developing. We've only just started it, so we're going to put little snippets on how you can use Copilot to save time and do more in your organization. Obviously, if you have any queries about getting started implementing Copilot, do get in touch. You've got my contact details on screen, and we can happy to have a chat about how we might be able to help. So thanks for attending, and for those of you watching the football this evening, do enjoy it. Let's hope that it's an England win, and I'm happy to sacrifice my sweepstake if we get that. Thanks very much. Bye.